Okay, well, it's time. Say something. Welcome to the Not Dresden Files podcast. I mean, it is, but not today.
Welcome to the other show that we
Yeah,
do.
yeah. That
when
one.
when we're not recording the other show that
Yeah.
we do.
While
Good
we're
job,
not
guys.
recording,
Good,
even though
good
we're
cold
recording.
open.
Good hustle. Good hustle.
Yeah,
Listen, it's been a
grab
while
their attention.
that we've all been
Get 'em
here
hooked.
at once. We're
Hacked.
finding our sea legs again. Speaking of One Piece,
Oh, geez.
Very good transition if that had been
Okay.
recorded.
but it wasn't because that's the name of this show.
Right?
It's so meta.
I'm so meta. Even this reference.
There's at least 3 people on this call who understand what I mean, and the other 2 were asleep.
So yeah, today we're talking about Halloween movies. We all picked two.
Wow.
Spooky
Yeah.
movies, whatever that is.
Spooky movies.
Supernatural horror movie, Halloween theme movies, and some
Lots of
ways.
blood, lots of guts, lots of
We were-
snapping.
We were across the gambit, but yes,
Some
I
of us
mean
picked
there
great
was
movies, some of us
blood
picked
and gore
good
was-
movies, and some picked bad movies, but we all picked
the
movies.
theme.
Hmm.
Oh my god, yeah, some terrible movies. So
Yeah. It's just like we kept the prompt was extremely vague of just spooky, whatever that means. And we took it in all sorts of different directions. It doesn't have to be specifically
right.
Halloween, although that's what inspired it. There's also just, I don't know, monsters, creatures, whatever's a little bit
right.
spooky. And yeah, we did a lot of weird shit. So who shall we start with?
Should we go with worst first?
Sure.
So, EG, do you want to start?
I'm so worried.
She
Oh,
was
I
on it.
So worried.
She was. Yeah, dude,
Oh.
that's what I'm saying. Like, finally, we got a topic where Ben and Andreas aren't pulling up the rear, man. So,
Ugh.
like,
Well, to be fair, I'd never seen The Descent. The only reason I picked it,
what?
I picked it because apparently it's the same guy who did Dog Soldiers. So I was like, okay,
Yes.
I
Yeah, that
enjoyed
didn't
Dog
save it.
Soldiers.
So you knew that you did do that on purpose, but
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
hadn't seen Descent because
No.
I was reading through the trivia from Descent because that was like the first movie I watched, I think, and I'm like, holy crap, did he know that the same director did these? So okay,
Dog Soldiers I picked again. I had never seen it, but we were talking a couple weeks ago about werewolf movies, and it just happened. It happened to be on the list of like, oh, I'm supposed to watch this. Apparently, it's pretty good.
I
And-
had it recommended as well. I thought the director had recommended it once upon a
No,
time.
I think I was talking about like some other werewolf thing, but when I was recounting Dog Soldiers to my husband, I remembered you brought this movie up when we were talking about Small Favor a long time ago because Guard was stitching her guts back together with super glue, and you mentioned this movie and the fact that that's exactly what they were trying to do to the guy that got eviscerated. So
Yeah, I
it's a
might
really
have read
weird
it in the
thing.
trivia because I'm pretty sure I hadn't seen the movie until just now. But
Yeah, no,
like,
EG is
until
the one who brought
this-
it up, and it just like
Oh, gotcha.
it made me like when I was remembering the
Okay.
movie. It's like, wait, was this a Dresden reference or was it the other way around? And I think it was all just
It's
he
the other
brought
way
it up.
around. Yeah,
I don't remember this, but it's possible.
yeah, because Dog Soldiers is like, it's an older movie, isn't it? So
That's like
Yeah, I think it's
2004
2000.
-ish.
Mid 2000, 2004.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I watched it for free on YouTube, so that worked out.
right.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it more than I enjoyed The Descent.
Oh yeah,
This was like pretty
The
good.
Descent was kind of
six,
miserable.
6.5 out of 10.
Because I feel like The Descent was him trying to be serious. Like, it's not that
Sure.
Dog Soldiers wasn't. It was just, I think he took it to a different level that he probably shouldn't have. Because, it was like the whole, oh, and you're cheating on your husband, and we're going into this
Right.
cave, and then at the end, she's going to leave her to die, and yada, yada, yada. It's like,
There's so much
That
of
was-
the Descent
that
that
was a
didn't
lot.
matter, and I hated it.
yeah, right. That was kind of my takeaway, right? Like, so halfway through the movie, I realized everybody's just a bunch of bastards. So that's when I decided that I was like, oh, I hate this movie. Okay, that's what we're doing. Like, it's not a bad movie, right? Like, it's got good production values. The story is okay. But then there is, the whole B plot of like, my husband and daughter died, but my best friend was cheating on with him.
With her.
And that becomes like plot relevant at the end, and like, you're just all terrible people, and that shouldn't have anything to do with the story, right? Like, yeah, it's like watching, Wreck or something like that, and in the middle you've got this whole, like cat fight B plot because of who's banging who in the friend circle or whatever, and it's just like, why does that matter?
It really didn't matter. It could have started with them getting to the cave, and that's it. It didn't, like, the
Right.
whage trauma of the car crash and everything. It was pointless, stupid.
Yeah, it's a thing
Yeah.
a lot of the horror movies have done. Well, they seem to do, where it's like, so everyone's got this backstory history with each other that you don't really find out until, call it, the end of the first act, as tensions start to build. And a lot of them don't do it that well. You mostly see it in stupid movies where like a whole cabin of people gets kidnapped and these killers are like trying to get after something and they're making them reveal secrets one by one. Like what was that stupid movie where with the dares? I'm trying to remember. It was like they were cursed to play Truth or Dare, and they, so they were learning a bunch of bullshit about each other the whole time, or they would have to like smash their hand with a hammer or some bullshit.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, they die on the spot, or I don't know. It was a stupid movie. I should have picked that one.
Thank
better.
God you didn't. So yeah, yeah.
But I enjoyed Dog Soldiers a lot more than I thought I would, especially because when it was recommended to me and then I started it, I was like, oh, this really is a B movie. But
It's a
Well,
great
and-
new movie.
I think
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think with Dog Soldiers, right, the opposite is kind of true. Like The Descent is kind of like, I mean, it's a really solid horror flick. It's just got a terrible story. Whereas I felt like Dog Soldiers had a really good premise and idea. It just didn't have the budget or writing to really capitalize on it, right?
Writing
And
was
so
fine. Writing had
like,
great lines like "There is no spoon."
where's Spoon? Of course, yeah, we named the guy, and we're not even entirely sure that's a reference on purpose. But anyway, yeah. So
could be.
Of course it was.
But like, if you take the formula, like Dog Soldiers is a very good, riff on like Night of the Living Dead, for example, right? There's a lot of very similar themes, but we'll replace them with werewolves. It just, the production values weren't quite there. But it's very formulaic in that regard. It's a solid werewolf movie. It's a good one.
And
if
it's
you're
nice
looking
to
for
see
one.
people in a horror movie that are competent. So
yes.
they're just overmatched. What are you going to do?
Well, yeah, what kind of annoyed me, like reading through the trivia too, though, right, is because they hyped up the fight with what's his nuts at the end, right, and the climactic battle, and then it's like 30 seconds, and he stabs him with a pen that you see in the first 30 seconds of the movie, and I'm like, that they in the trivia they were like, oh, it's a reference and homage to Predator, and how cool is that, and whatever, and then I was like, that was like the weakest fight I've seen. Like,
Yeah,
there were so many better fights. Like one of the dudes straight up boxes a werewolf for longer than that.
Yeah,
like,
that was the
like,
next
give me a
last
break.
guy to die.
yeah, like his fight scene was way better, and nobody was talking about that in the trivia.
Yeah,
so-
and then he was like, "I hope I give you the shits."
yeah, right. Which is a great line, Yeah. So
I like the werewolf grabbing the shotgun and shooting with it.
yes,
And then throwing
yeah,
it back.
Yeah. See how you like it.
But yeah, I don't have much to say about The Descent. But Dog Soldiers was good. Descent was not really
Dog
good.
Soldiers was appropriately stupid. It was self-aware. It was the correct form of stupid. I quite enjoyed it, and it was a good palate cleanser after watching The Descent. And some amount of that, The Descent
Well, it's
being
good that you went in
entirely
that
women,
order.
was quite annoying because they were all catty bitches to each other. And so getting into military masculinity, and they're just calling each other plonkers and twats. It's like, yes, this is what I missed. I needed this.
The
Is that a thing you do with your friends if they're not acting like friends? Like you're really
Calling them
angry?
twats. Yes.
Yeah, no, you go hang out with like an SAS group,
course.
and
What are you
I had
talking about?
no idea. I had no idea. That just okay.
Well,
Okay.
this is a masculine form of friendship, I admit, but does it look like I hang out with women?
I was gonna say, first of all, it doesn't look like you hang out with anyone. We know you don't leave the house.
right.
Go to work and then it's back home.
Yeah,
Get
so
Indian takeout on the
yeah,
way.
she's not going to get
Exactly.
Indian takeout a mile away. It's not happening. So there's no worry here. But
What do you think of them, Ben?
Of Dog Soldiers,
Yeah, and Descent. I don't think you said much.
I did. Well, I did. I actually used to own Descent. Back when Blockbuster went out of business, I saw that there are a bunch of movies that they were just like selling it for like dirt cheap, like 50 cents or something like that. So I went to I went to like Rotten Tomatoes or whatever online, and I just saw what movies are well rated that it has, and I just checked what it had and against like a tomato meter or something. And Descent was on there. I was like, I think this is, yeah. And so I actually owned Descent for a while, and I was like, wow, what a miserable. It was just a miserable movie the entire way through.
Right.
But the thing that stuck with me most, all these years, and the thing I'm terrified of constantly, has nothing to do with any of the cave stuff. It's just those poles going through the windshield. And every time I see somebody driving down the freeway and there's poles on the back of a truck, I'm like, I get to explain.
That was Final Destination 2 for me.
Yeah, right. That's the one. That's the one scare that really works for me. And the rest of it is, especially when I saw the extended ending. You guys watched that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the one where she escapes.
No. Well, I was thinking
or is there
original.
More?
That's the birthday cake one.
Yeah, so the extended one where it's like she's still in
the
a cave
ending.
and it's all been a hallucination of her getting out.
Right.
Well, that's the British original ending, from what I understood. So
yeah. Okay.
Which I mean is better, I guess, because nobody likes any of these people. So I guess it's better that she doesn't make it.
Sure. But it's one of those ways that just makes you feel bad after watching it. And I just felt really bad after watching it. That's all I had. I know it's not much, but it's a true horror movie, and it's about a descent into madness. I can get the character thing. Ooh.
Right.
But not my cup of tea. Well made for what it is.
Sure. Yeah. I was just going to point out for the Zoomers that Ben kind of outed himself. There's a very, very small window where you could go to Blockbuster and use the internet at the same time. So that really narrows down.
Yeah, it was about 3 weeks.
like I bought a movie from Blockbuster and checked on Rotten Tomatoes. Holy shit. That's like, what, a 6-month period?
But it wasn't on his phone.
Right?
No, it was not. I had a big old desktop with a nice thick monitor.
Yep.
Thick monitor, yeah.
iMac, maybe?
Yeah, right. With a little clear colored plastic.
Right.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
Just I gotta say, a final comment on the Descent is like the idea of the monsters down in the cave is a fine idea, but Pandorum did it better. And so I just wanted the movie to turn into Pandorum, and it wasn't doing that. And
I was gonna say there was another one. Was it the Caverns or something? I think it was the one they shot in the France ones, or at least it was supposed to look like the France ones. That was made a couple years later. I don't remember what it was called, but that kind of stuff was in vogue for a while.
Yeah. Maybe you should have chose that movie.
I can't even remember the name. How would I choose it?
Just that one French cave thing, whatever.
French cave horror movie thing.
We'll find it.
Google will find it. Hold on.
It's true. It probably will.
Are you sure it wasn't the Catacombs? Because that would be more specific. So
it might have. That might have actually been the name. I don't know.
Well, no, Yeah,
but the Catacombs.
Well, there is a movie called Catacombs. So.
I believe that.
There's also As Above, So Below, apparently.
Maybe.
So, 2014.
You're putting more effort into that than he ever did.
Yeah, well, Catacombs 2007. So
yeah, it's probably As Above, So Below.
So ironically, we talked about it a little bit with Interview with a Vampire, not to jump ahead, but it was kind of funny because my oldest was talking about if I had to do this, I'd get a bunch of people together and we'd go on an expedition type of talk. And it was like, holy shit, that takes me back to high school, because when I learned about the French catacombs, everybody knows the urban legend about the guy who took his camcorder down there and dropped it and ran off into the darkness. And it's like, how fucking scared do you have to be to drop your only light source and connection to the outside world and flee into the darkness, right? And so I was like, fuck that noise, it's unmapped, whatever it was the idea I had at the time. I'm like, I'm taking 40 dudes down there. We're Americans, so of course we're bringing guns. We're going to do all of this stuff and then find out that it's oh yeah, in certain places they actually give tours, so it's
not only that,
reality
but
versus...
I don't think you're getting guns into France. That's just me.
I'm an American. Every country is my
and they're
country,
no, they're France. They care even less about Americans than Americans do.
Oh yeah. But anyway, yeah. So like I remember having all these detailed plans about doing expeditions. So yes, the French catacombs are kind of an interest to me. So
I'm sure there's other places you can do it where it's still unmapped.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like
I feel like
sections and whatnot. But
maybe that's just this is my brain, but that takes us to the thing because the unmapped idea of Antarctica was
sure,
very like present in my mind when I was watching this.
that's a segue, but good.
I'll take
So-
it.
I'm gonna admit the thing was probably over the top compared to some of the other movies in here. But when a couple of you guys are like, "I've never seen the thing," and I'm like, "Yep, that's going on the list first." And then I was going through a list and like I mentioned Tremors, and somebody was like, "Oh, I've never seen Tremors," going on the list.
I've never
So
seen Tremors.
Who never
like-
saw
It's
Tremors?
pretty decent.
yeah,
I've seen
Andreas
a lot
and-
of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's right.
like, yeah. So I mean, if we're gonna talk about the thing, like, come on, the thing is fantastic for so many reasons. Like, there is visceral horror, right, and body
Yes,
horror,
there is.
right,
Ugh.
and that, like I said, way over the top compared to some of the other stuff that we had. But it's also largely investigative, right? Like if you're looking at it from like a minutes to minutes perspective, like it's so much more a who done it, where are they, what's going on now. There you can almost follow what the creature is doing in the background by just kind of watching what everybody else is doing and who's not on screen and whatever. And it's really only probably the second time that I've seen it, but still being surprised by like who is or isn't the thing at various times, because this time I'm trying to keep track of who's touching the dog, where's this, where's that, sort of thing. But also, like the thing that struck me in the movie in the first place, and I think a big part of what stuck with me and why I liked it, is the absolute existential horror of them running the simulation of like what happens if this gets out of Antarctica and how long does it take over the world. And it's something like 3 years, right, which is probably over the top. But it's like if this thing gets off, if one cell of this thing gets out of Antarctica, it's going to take over the whole rest of the world. And trying to think about even like it comes from a crashed spaceship. Was it its spaceship? Did it break containment? Where did they find it? So it becomes this whole like xenomorph type of thing where it's just like, maybe it was engineered, maybe they found it somewhere, maybe whatever. But the movie itself and the threats and the suspense and just everything, the blood test scene, where like it's also great because they're all scientists, but they've got their heads screwed on for the most part, right? This isn't Prometheus where it's like, let's go lick something on an alien planet. Nobody does that stupid shit. People are panicking and they're stupid in that level. But it's like when I can't remember Kurt Russell's character's name, but it's like he's doing the blood
McCready.
test. Yeah, right, McCready. And he's doing the blood test and he understands that he needs to show faith before he starts fingering other people, right? So he's like, the second or third blood test, because it's like, look, all you guys are tied up. I'm the guy with the flamethrower. I'm going to do me first so that and after like 3, not even false positives, but false tests, right? That have proven that they're not the monster. Everyone's like, okay, this test is not even working.
Yeah, so
And then they get to one that does, and he's like, holy shit. Like I'm tied up next to that guy, such great scenes. But then even the climax of them kind of figuring out like, oh wait, we didn't realize this one guy's kind of out of containment and has been secretly building a spaceship to escape and all of that stuff. Like I just love the movie. And then you get to the end and there's still so many people that are undecided about, the ending of the movie, right? On whether or not Childs was the other guy, right? So, Childs and McCready, which one of them is the thing, and all of this other stuff. But
Well,
right.
So
right.
But
So
this was a great movie, and actually, when I was watching the thing, I kind of felt like this was missing in my childhood because I grew up on Aliens and Terminator. This kind of should have just belonged right there. Although, admittedly,
no, this
when I
is
was
worse than Aliens. Like,
yes, but it's
like
it wouldn't
scarier.
have-
Like the body horror is so much over the top.
that
Like,
might have actually gotten to me
Yeah.
as a kid. I don't know because
Right.
there's some parts of like the chest bursters and stuff. But then I think of like I was watching the chest burster scenes
That's
just
fair.
fine. So I don't know. As this was missing. Now it's in my life. Thank you. But my husband's also gotten into it. We watched it together, and he was diving into some of the canonical thing. There was apparently a game set, and it was semi-canonical that explains that neither Mac or Childs were the thing because they both probably died of exposure. So that means that they weren't the thing. Is it just like the ambiguous ending point? Is like they kind of sort of got an answer somewhere.
I don't think the viewer is supposed to put those two and two together, right? I think the viewer is supposed to think one or the other. Who knows? Right. It's uncertain. It's unsettling. You go out disgusted.
Well, and like Carpenter wanted the ambiguous ending, right? So he is still refused to elaborate and that sort of thing. There's been so much fan canon that I've seen where it's like, oh well, just pay attention to who's got cold breath or whatever. But in other scenes where because like I think they tested Child's blood, right? So he's not the thing at one point. But then you see him off a screen. But during some of those scenes, like he doesn't have a very intense steam about him anyway, compared to MacReady. And then some of the other fun stuff that I've seen is like the bottle of alcohol they're drinking from isn't actually alcohol; it's kerosene. But like I never see anything in the movie that jumped out to me to back that up. Right there, I don't recall. Yeah, I don't recall a scene where he pours out a bottle of alcohol and fills it with kerosene or something like that, So people
that would have
really
been a clever thing, but the movie can't go on forever, and it's not supposed to have a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
the happy ending is
if Kurt Russell
doesn't go away.
If Kurt Russell did, in fact, figure out that it's the thing, and that's the ending that John Carpenter ended wanting. The other part of the ending John Carpenter would have wanted is that Kurt Russell just dies. Like that's the kind of movie it is. It's not the kind of movie where you win.
Right. Well, yeah, the winning was stopping the thing, in my opinion. It's more of a utilitarian win condition.
Or did they? And that's why it's a horror movie.
Right. Because it's like if one of them is the thing and all they do is just get frozen, whenever somebody comes looking for them, in the morning, right? There's supposed to be a rescue helicopter or whatever, isn't there?
They said it has to be in spring, that they have to last through the winter season alone.
Yeah, I was pretty sure there was one coming or something like that, but yeah, so anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I just love the movie, and when too many of you guys said you hadn't seen it. Now, to do a little aside, another movie I was thinking of this morning was like we should have done Fallen. I'm not sure how many people have seen that one, but that would have been a properly spooky, but another existential, like, oh shit, like.
Is that the one where God decides humanity has to end?
No. No, I mean, what is that? The sixth day or something? I'm sure there's like, but yeah, Fallen is. Denzel Washington is a cop hunting a serial killer that turns out to be a demon. It's fantastic. So anyway, Tremors. So
that's a good fucking one. Yeah, I think I've really seen
that.
Just touch on the thing really quickly. I just want to say I think it was good. I loved how they set up his character, the main guy, MacReady, and they start with the chess, and he's like, "It's cheating, fuck it," and pulls alcohol into the computer.
Right.
And I would say it's like a 7 out of 5. I thought it was quite good.
A 7 out of 5. That's really good.
Yeah, that's really good.
7.5 is what I meant. 7.5.
7 out of 5. All right.
7.5 out of 5. Okay.
Yeah,
that's even better. This thing is skyrocketing.
I like Tremors more.
Well, Tremors is funnier.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Tremors is really good, but come on.
Tremors like the Ghostbusters pick of this lot, right? It's so much, almost more of a comedy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can see that. Yeah. It's definitely campy, right?
Well, but I'd say Ghostbusters because while Addams Family Values also kind of very much has the comedy side of things.
Right.
It is very macabre, but there's no macabre here. Yeah. It's just a bunch of cowboys and Hicks. And unlike Tucker and Dave versus Evil, they're just Hicks. They're not like character archetypes from horror movies. They're not. A lot of these others are. I think it really works.
Yeah, and Tremors. It's classic horror tropes. You got a small town, you got a monster, that sort of thing. They really lean into the fact that these guys are, hicks, like you said, in the middle of nowhere,
Sure.
and they're just trying to deal with something that they're out of their depth, right? And I think it's the characterizations that really help sell the movie in a lot of ways, right? The two main characters are just handymen. They got no real skills or education or whatever. They were born in this small town. They're going to keep living. Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? Like there's a difference between like the skilled labor and like what these guys are doing. They're putting up fences and shit,
This is what happened to Kevin Bacon's character after Footloose. This is what he became.
Right.
He's this guy out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. If you don't stay in school and no, I'm just kidding. But, so you've got that, then you've got your scientist girl who can try to explain things, but I like that they kept going to her for answers and she just didn't have any, right? She's like, look, this is not science. Like it's probably a science and I can speculate, but there's nothing going on here. And then as Andreas accused me, you've got Burt Gummer with all of his guns.
The most useful character in all of fiction.
Right. Like
if you're dealing with any kind of threat.
Yeah, it's just classically practical, right? Like one thing that I don't like about a lot of horror movies and tropes and stuff is like, you run into like zombie movies where nobody has seen a zombie movie, right? Or you run into a zombie movie where like nobody is prepared and nobody has any skills or whatever. And I mean, that's shooting fish in a barrel, literally. But then in this one, it's like you are in a small town in the middle of nowhere with literal preppers with dozens of weapons, and they know their craft. They can tell you, no, yeah, this isn't going to have the stopping power. Use this gun instead.
Break out the elephant gun.
Yeah, right. And then
I was like, that might do it.
Yeah. And then we can't shoot into the ground because Earth is a great backdrop for shooting. That's why we shoot against dirt mounds and stuff like that. And so you get all of these little details that it's like, that doesn't make the movie, but I always enjoy it better, right? Compared to like one of my favorite zombie movies is the 2004, Dawn of the Dead remake, right? But like Vim Rang's character is like a cop and he racks that shotgun like 18 times in one scene. A little bit of hyperbole, but like one of those classic action tropes, right? You don't really see any of that in Tremors, right? But again, that doesn't really sell the movie. And then the final like thing where it's like, oh man, we're going to be stuck on this rock and we're going to die and whatever. And then he remembers the joke from the first 30 seconds of the movie about a stampede and tricks the thing off the cliff. I don't know. It's not my favorite movie, but I think it is somewhat of a classic, and it's got a right blend of, the horror and humor of it, poor what's his face, the shopkeep. Yeah, shopkeep getting eaten, them having to like hide out on top of the building until the thing shakes the foundations down. There's just all these fun little scenes,
I think hands down the best scene is the prepper, the guy, and he's like 5 years of food and water and all these things he goes through that he's prepped, and then he's like underground monsters,
right?
Think of that one.
We were thinking the Russians, we were thinking World War III, we were thinking this, that, and the other thing, societal collapse, but fucking monsters, like yeah. So
that was like probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, where he's just like, you almost feel like he's like, I should have thought of it,
right?
Like he has that feeling to him.
Well, and that's why I tell people with the zombies thing, right? Is like, just think of zombies as a good way to get in the mindset for prepping, right? It doesn't have to be zombies. It could be all sorts of thing. And then, like I had been saying that for a while, and then the CDC like legitimately put out, like, here's how to prepare for zombies, just in case, maybe it's a hurricane, but also zombies, so, but
the best line though is in the second one, because when he's like, I am completely out of ammo. That's never happened to me before.
Right. That's awesome. It's been too long since I've seen the second one for sure. I'm not sure if I made it any further than that, but
the second one's okay. The rest of them are no. The second one's like
out of a
Well, I mean, the second one where it's like Kevin Bacon and Reba McEntire remember that they have careers, so they're not in it.
Ah,
But Bert and the other main guy whose name is escaping me is in it, and
right.
so on and so forth.
Nice.
Tremors was fun. It was kind of stupid, but it took the stupid seriously, and it was internally consistent. And so that, like, it's worse if it's not going to take anything seriously and just kind of like here or there, wherever. But it's like it sets up some things. Here's the information. Now this is why it matters. It executed it well.
Right. Like it's a pretty tight story, right? There's nothing that was like too over the top, I don't think, outside of the monster, obviously, right? Everything kind of fits the rules that they set up. Everything kind of fits the theme that they've set up. It's like we got Hicks acting like Hicks and they do redneck engineering.
Right.
We got a prepper and his solution is fire power, more of it. If it's not working, you don't have enough of it, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty tight and consistent with that. And even the characters, like, they get wise to some things, right? That at one point they're like, wait, who's gone missing? And they go look at a map and they're like, shit, it's coming for town. Just stuff like that, where it's like, why do these other details, why do these other deaths matter? Because they're telling the characters information, that it's just what I tell people. It's like, you can have, like, a lot of what makes bad movies bad is that they're just not tightly written, right? You've just got a bunch of fluff.
A lot of wasted
You've got
stuff.
shit that's not relevant.
Well, a line that the director will say, this is an homage to Predator, right? So
right.
The whole "don't obey the kill your darlings" thing, whereas some movies are just very tightly structured. And I think that's across all genres. You waste my time, it's not fun, even if you're having a blast.
Of The Descent was a waste of my time.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, and that's why I'm like, there's like, for The Descent, there's almost no redeeming qualities, right? Unless you just want to get your rocks off for getting scared, or you have certain phobias or something. Seeing Tisea cast in it and some other British actresses, that was kind of fun. But like, whatever. But yeah, like that was kind of the thing at Descent. I was like, this was just like, an attack on the psyche. It wasn't really, there wasn't anything to chew on. It wasn't fun. People had senseless deaths, and just all of this stuff. And it's like, I tell people, because the same thing with World War Z, like, it's okay that this happens in real life, but that doesn't make it good fiction. Like, it's one of those things where it's like,
you mean you don't like it when the doctor shoots himself in the head because he's a fucking idiot?
Yes. Or,
coincidences and contrivances and miracles happen in real life. That doesn't make them less of a coincidence or a contrivance in fiction if you write it. So
right. Because like in The Descent, the one where I was like, it really kind of disengaged me was the whole like accidental kill. And it was like, it makes sense, right? She's in the moment, she's getting snuck up on. The other girl was an idiot, but that didn't add anything to the movie other than just being brutal, right? And being there. So
no, that's another thing where it's like, that's an idea that in a better movie that works, that has impact.
Right.
It's the same thing like in a zombie movie. If you think the thing coming up behind you is the undead and you just shoot your friend, even though you've survived all this way at the end, it's like, well, damn.
Right.
That could be, but not in this movie.
Yeah.
All right. For no reason, let's pick on Ben.
Uh-oh.
Do the light and fluffy, the Tim Burton and Tim Burton offshoot movies.
Right.
I guess it was a Tim Burton.
Whatever.
It as a Tim Burton offshoot.
And no, Adam's family
great.
is way older than that, right? So
it's
you know what? You gotta admit, for a movie based on a New Yorker cartoon, I think it's pretty good.
Also, I would say Tim Burton's vibe had been pretty well established by the time Adam's Family's Values came out.
What, like a year or
well,
two, right?
Okay.
It's Adam 1993. Fine. Let's see, Tim Burton.
But
I thought,
we're getting bogged down in the fact that there wasn't like prior art, in the fact that there was a TV show for a long time before either Tim Burton or this movie came out. So yeah.
True. And there's even stuff that has influenced Tim Burton, like the whole what's that movie? He also made a movie out of it. It's a soap opera.
It would, I think.
Well, that's true. That's true too. I was thinking of just the there's a some soap opera right? Wasn't there?
Oh,
something
Dark
about the-
Shadows. Yeah, yeah.
Dark Shadows, right? So he made him a.
Yeah. I don't hate that movie. I mean, it's a stupid movie, but I don't hate that movie.
Yeah.
All right, defend your
All right.
picks.
Well, I think I think it's when it comes to like the macabre stuff, I don't have a problem with like the ghouls and ghosts macabre stuff. What I like about all this is that it's well,
A Christmas movie.
it's fun. You have somebody to root for. I would say it's the opposite of The Descent, and I know you like The Descent. I'm not trying to trash The Descent, but in terms of
I didn't like The Descent.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Well,
I never seen it. I picked it
You've
because
never
it's
seen
Dog
it.
Soldiers.
fair enough. Okay, I missed that.
Such
I
a
don't give a shit.
risky.
You can keep ripping on that.
Oh yeah,
movie.
no. So if
Risky
The
pick.
Descent is a movie about how people can be very, 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 very miserable, this is how even weirdo freaks can be very, very happy, and they're just very well adjusted. They have everything going right, and they just look weird, but they're actually doing very well. It's there's not much more
I
than
would
that.
say they
going on
act
there.
weird too, but yes,
I think
I
they
get
act
the
weird.
point.
They are weird. I'm not going to say that
Right.
they're,
I mean, they have a disembodied hand that walks around. It's,
which is awesome.
there are
Oh,
reasons to be unsettled by the
Favorite
Adamses.
character. Anyway, so
I actually Googled that because I couldn't really figure out what they're trying to do with the Addams family. Supposedly, they're all human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think they're. I mean, the things
What
that
do you think
happen
they
are not human.
That's a human hand. It's just
Yeah.
moving
I mean-
around without the rest of it.
Yeah, and Cousin It, you could
Very
make
hairy.
some arguments there, but yeah.
It's
But
Hungarian.
Things they can survive.
Snoop Dogg's not Hungarian. So,
And the things they can do, yeah, the things they're, yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
they're not. How can they be
yeah.
human?
So that's I mean, and of course, Night Before Christmas is Stone Cold classic, right? It does have a lot. Actually, I'd say Night Before Christmas is a lot scarier than Adam's Family Values. There's a couple
Sure.
of couple of things, but it has some really, and it has all the horror tropes, every single one, with, and all of them are played for laughs so brilliantly, except for Oogie Boogie. Like he's kind of played
Right.
for laughs, but and that guy's genuinely terrified. I mean, I'm still scared of him today, which is probably not an admission I want in the public sphere. But there it is.
at least it's on the internet. It'll be there forever.
I was going to say, nobody watches this one. They watch the other one, so
Yeah.
you're fine.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, good. I'm safe. Yeah, so I think it's all.
Yeah,
all
until we
just-
bring it up on the other one, and then you'll.
Oh,
Right.
no.
Ben was scared of Oogie Boogie.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my only admission for this is that Nightmare Before Christmas is the only one of these movies I didn't watch, just because it's on my yearly watch list for the most
Right.
part. Right? It's just one of those that it is a classic. It's one of my favorites. The music is phenomenal.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
generally a fan of like musical, style and that sort of thing, but it's phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah, right.
So
Before you even picked this, I had watched it like 3 weeks ago when I was over at my friend's house watching.
Yeah.
It was just him, me, and his 2.5-year-old, and it was like, what are we putting on? It's like, Nightmare Before Christmas. Okay.
I watched it with a friend, and we had a conversation I wanted to bring up here. Is like, is it more Halloween movie or Christmas movie?
It's even. It's even split. I don't want to hear the debates and the art. You watch it on Halloween, you can watch it on Christmas. Watch it on fucking Thanksgiving. I don't give a shit. It's during this time of year.
right.
It's more
There's even an Easter Bunny. You could watch it on Easter.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know what? Undead things moving around. What's more Easter than that?
Right.
Exactly.
So, really, it's for all times of the year, except summer.
Fair.
Yeah, no,
but
I watch it just for fun all the time. It's wonderful.
right. Both very solid picks, Ben. So thank you.
So what do you
Gotta
think
give
of Adam's Family
props,
Values?
so-
I don't think you said much.
Also-
about
That's the better of the first.
Also
It's
classic.
the better of the two, I think.
Really? Oh, you
I
really
always
do?
enjoyed Adam's Family's Values more than the first.
Okay.
Yes.
A
I was
bold
actually going to
choice.
argue with you because you had originally only put Adam's Family on it, and so I
Oh, no,
watched
no,
Adam's
no.
Family, and
Oh, no,
then
I'm so
I see
sorry.
updated the Adam's
Oh.
Family Values, which I was going to yell at you as being the better movie anyway.
I was
so
going to say the
watched
first one's not
extra movie.
bad, but this one I think
No,
is just
no.
It's far better.
very much.
Then it also
very
turned out
much
there are
better.
two Addams Family Values.
Which I didn't. Yeah, okay. I think that was the thing where I was typing it into my phone. I was half asleep, and I thought I got the last word in there.
Sometimes a sequel is just clearly better. Empire Strikes Back, Back to the Future 2, The Untouchables 2, or no, was it The Untouchables? Not The Untouchables. The
Terminator 2,
The
Alien.
Terminator 2.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting. It was this Sylvester Stallone movie with Jason Statham and all the action heroes where they...
The Last
Expendables.
Jedi.
Yeah, the Expendables too. That's much better than the first one.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas, all-time classic, great movie. Adam's Family, it was okay.
Values.
I'm not a big
Yeah,
Adam's Family
values
guy.
is important there.
Yeah. Adam's Family
Family values.
uh,
First, yeah,
decent.
right.
I'm not a big
There's
Adam's Family guy.
The
I'll
best
be
thing
a
about the-
victim all your life.
A fucking great cast. Like, I just saw so many faces as kids where I was just like, man, I know that person. I know that I've seen that person
Right.
before.
Right. Speaking of faces, like, not that this is ever going to work or help or anything, but I was getting Nona vibes from Wednesday the entire time.
course
So I
you
was
were.
like, because of the pigtails and everything. So come on, tell me that wouldn't have worked, at the time. So
Yeah, but I feel
yeah,
like
I just
if Wednesday Addams had the powers of the people in that series, like that universe would have been hers already, as opposed to these
for sure.
people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, and that's part of why I like Wednesday, anyways, is because she's cruel but cunning, and all of those fun things. So,
It's nice how she, scares her love interest to death at the end,
right,
because that's what she
yeah.
did.
Who
Well,
is it? He
and
pops
the
up in-
entire
I've seen
play
him in so many
sequence,
things, I don't remember the actor's name.
He's
Mr. Universe, that guy.
yeah, he is that guy.
Yeah, the wife pointed that out. I'm
I
like,
also-
no,
I think he's
didn't."
also Bernard and the Santa Claus, right? The elf.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
I always got him confused with Oscar Isaac, and they're obviously not the same person, but I'm pretty sure that's him. But yeah, he was definitely
Yeah,
Mr.
he
Universe.
does look like Oscar Isaac, but it's not him. It's the other guy.
Right.
That yeah, I confused those two.
Mhm.
David Krumholtz. So,
Yes.
yep, he is Bernard the Elf in Santa
Yeah.
Claus. So,
I think I know
was-
him mostly from the Numbers TV show.
Yeah, that too.
Oh god, that was him.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was
Wow.
him. See, for me, it was a Santa Claus because that movie was on repeat for many years in my household.
well, he's
Around
just so
Christmas
short in
time.
the Santa Claus, like it's hard to recognize him.
Yeah, no, he's the tallest elf. He's like the only
Yeah.
adult elf.
Right.
All the rest of them are actual kids.
I just
Which
keep
was-
thinking of more great horror movies to add in the future. So,
Oh, speaking of,
There
are you
will
guys
be
going to
another-
see Violent Night? Because I'm really excited for that movie.
I think it looks great.
I haven't heard of it,
I'm excited
so-
for it.
It's fucking why am I blanking on his name? Stranger Things guy, David Harbour.
David Harbour as
He's Santa.
Claus?
He's Santa Claus, and like these John Leguizamo
Oh,
and,
I saw a
and
preview for that.
a bunch of other people like are kidnapping this
Alex
family or some
Haskell.
shit, and he's the real Santa Claus, and he comes drunkenly in and he starts killing all of them.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
Using
That's-
magic Santa powers and everything is like
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all on my naughty list.
Yeah, they're all on my
And
naughty
it's
list.
on my nice list. I gotta take care of it.
Oh my god, I'm so happy about this movie right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw the preview for it randomly, and then when I went to go see the newest Halloween movie,
Are they going to
it came on
actually
again.
like? Is it going to be a theater release or what?
Yeah. No. It's gonna be.
Huh?
It's a movie, not just a
Yeah.
Netflix movie or something.
Of course, Krampus is in it. So did the Cold War heat up?
Krampus
Couldn't resist.
Krampus
Yeah.
was another movie that was like it was okay, but
I haven't seen that one because I was just
that's
like,
what we should
why?
do. Is like Christmas snowy crossover movies.
Yeah, Christmas horror.
Yeah.
That'll be our
Okay.
Christmas.
Well,
theme.
no, I like I would probably pick like 30 Days a Night for that one.
Right.
Why already did Nightmare Before Christmas?
Because you already
Yeah,
did it.
no.
Well,
Yeah.
No.
Hey Ben, have you
Yes.
seen or heard of 30 Days of Night? Because these are not
I read
remotely
the comic.
in
I
the
read the
same.
comic book back in the day. Oh yeah,
Okay.
I know.
Because 30 Days of Night is on my I'd rather not rewatch it list because there are some things that get used in that are like, yeah, this is pushing it for me. Like, it is a fantastic concept, but it's a little over the top for me. So, but yeah, that's all. So anyway, good solid picks to get us back on topic. So
so let's get the directors out of the way.
Okay.
second worst movie, I'm sorry.
What
It's
interview?
got to be said. No, Van Helsing.
Oh,
That's-
shut up!
Okay. No,
Shut
come
up.
on.
Yeah,
Look,
I agree.
look,
Yes, he's on my
I-
side.
there are so many good things in Van Helsing, and it is so bad, and just it doesn't capitalize on it.
just
It's like
cheesy.
we've
It's
got the
just
best
cheesy.
ingredients. We've got the hottest vampire chick. We got fucking Wolverine. We got
Faramir. He
Igor
gets
from the
laid.
Mummy. It's so good. Like, and it's so fucking terrible. It's just
How is it terrible?
boring.
It's so much fun.
And we got
it's
Faramir as Q. We got, come on. If
was
I wrote
so
this on
good.
paper, you guys would watch this shit every
You got
time.
the most over the top
I-
Dracula
but-
in a while.
I loved it.
He's
It's
so good
much
as
fun.
Dracula too, though. But it just, it just
As a fun little trivia tidbit, Dracula and one of the wives actually got married because of this movie.
right.
that
I love
is funny.
that. But
As another
Yeah.
fun trivia tidbit, the guy who plays Dracula is the guy who plays Moriarty in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, another terrible movie of
Which
this
this
kind
movie
of quality.
No.
totally follows.
League is bad, right? I have to own that, but I like
Oh, yeah.
League better. at
No,
least,
see, I
like
I like League, but League is much worse than this movie.
yes.
No.
like
wait.
League is the one where I was like, oh shit, did she get typecast as a vampire? Because like Underworld had come out around the same time, and it's like, oh, we need a vampire chick. Hold on, we've got
Well, it was
one on speed
apparently a
dial.
worry.
No, I was
that
going to
the
say
guy
that
had.
one that would have had to been Van Helsing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Underworld had just come out. He wanted her for Van Helsing, but he's like, but then she's just going to be the vampire chick. And then her agent eventually got him to send a script, and it all worked out. I was wondering if Andreas was going to pick Underworld, and then we'd have two Kate Beckinsale movies. But
Which would have been fine.
yes, exactly, it would have been
worth-
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
think
Underworld is
Beckinsale is
legitimately
in
good.
Benedict
In
anyway.
my opinion.
So is Van Helsing. Van Helsing has
Yeah, the
all
first
of the.
I like the first Underworld. The rest of
No.
them are kind of ridiculous.
The second one's okay, but the first one is a solid movie. But it's not on this list. Van Helsing has all of the classic horror stories, which is great. I mean, this is the same guy who made The Mummy, and so as when we were thinking of this topic, yes, The Mummy kind
he
of fits in
should've-
this.
Right. He should have toned down the camp, because I was thinking that
No.
while we're watching it. I was like, it really does have Mummy vibes, but it's
campy.
taking the camp way too far, I think.
I
So
disagree. I think that is what's
Yeah,
deserved in this type of setting. The tone matches the already ridiculousness of having Frankenstein and Dracula and the wives and Helsing as a
and
character.
the
It just-
werewolf.
and the
Yeah.
werewolves.
Well, it
all
also
of them.
starts off
And
pretty
Igor,
strong. Like there's
Dr. Jekyll.
really no camp in
Yeah.
the first 20 minutes. I mean, I guess you could argue some of
Right.
the stuff Dr. Jekyll does, but it's like
Mm.
no, in general, that first opening when it's in black and white is like, ooh, all right.
Yeah. This
And then
right.
and then even the first Van Helsing stuff where
But
you
to
know,
have-
right before he gets his buzzsaw and like nunchuck things out. But I mean, the automatic repeating crossbow has got to be the greatest fantasy weapon ever. That
yes.
thing is so fun. I want one. It's
Yeah.
unlimited ammo. It's perfect.
It's
Kate
from
Beckinsale
Ed.
would
He
just
reloads
always
it one
dumb.
time.
Right.
In the
Yeah,
movie.
one time and then it becomes unlimited ammo.
Right.
Also, it's got that switch where it can go to like single shot or semi-auto.
Right.
you
It turns
can just
into a
snipe
sniper.
people then all of a sudden with it.
Right.
This movie is
but-
so much fun. It is cheesy. It has the seriousness, but it's also very just cheesy, and it's the perfect mix of everything, in my opinion. And this is one of the movies that I watched over and over and over again as a child. It is absolutely no surprise to me that I latched onto Dresden Files. It is the same type of energy.
I was
I-
noticing his get up. I was like, shit, I gotta go get me one of them trench coats with the mantle, because
Oh, yeah.
his has that, right?
And the
I was
hat.
like,
He's got the
yeah.
hat. You gotta
It's
wear
got
that.
the magic and the horror and the comedy and the horror and the gadgets. It's just like this is in my blood. Apparently, I can't
I'll
not.
take his crossbow over the 44
It's
Magnum.
not that I hated it. It's just not
Listen,
good.
Between these two choices, Interview with the Vampire is much more of a slog to me.
I can
Oh,
it
understand
is
it.
it is a
Dull,
slog, but it's
dull movie.
yeah, it's a drama, right? Like as much as anything.
Yeah.
And
So,
Are you
like-
saying there are not dramatic elements in Van Helsing? How dare you?
it's it's different. So yes, drama
bit.
is too broad of a word, but yeah, it's an autobiography of a vampire, and yeah, it is sloggy, but it's an autobiography of Thomas the vampire, right? Because that's what we're fucking watching. Is we're watching the guy who got turned because he was depressed, and guess what? Now he gets to be depressed forever. So he's the classic brooding vampire whiner for all time, and yeah, I think it's great for the time period. I don't particularly think it's, aged especially well, but like it is what it is, and it doesn't really pretend to be much else, right? It,
Oh, I mean, sure.
yeah.
I mean, I've never been a fan of this movie, to be
The
perfectly
special
honest.
effects holds up so well compared to Van Helsing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're almost all practical, like just direct. It had a $60 million budget, like, and $10 million of that was like Tom Cruise's salary. Like they did a
The other
lot,
10
but
million
not
spent
very
on their
much.
hair. Their hair was perfect.
Probably,
It's just-
right? Yeah. So
yeah,
dude's busy like setting fire to 10 other vampires, and she's like, "Look at that hair," So
kind of was. It's just like, wow, they all have really good hair. Like in Armand was particularly like it stand out, but it looks good on Antonio Banderas. Like,
They're supposed to be
Yeah.
perfect, right? When they're vampires.
yes, like as they show with the transformation of Claudia, of like that goes to being
right,
normal to being perfectly doll-like, and that being part of the tragedy, part of the protection of them, the essence of what it is to be a
Performance
vampire.
is so good for a
Um,
kid. Like she's like
she nailed it. Like I think she was like 11 at the time, and
Yeah,
she
it was
did
a big
manage to
break.
capture the aged monster of her when she was stuck in a child's body.
right,
One of
Yeah.
you get it.
right.
But it was
Yeah,
pretty
and-
dull. I think it was overall just pretty
Come
dull. It was
on.
pretty dull.
You say that?
And you say that. You say that.
Right.
I say that too.
Mr. Babbitt's Feast. It's kind of a dull
Oh.
movie.
Well, that is. Oh, you cannot compare this to
Yes,
Babette's.
I
Feast.
will compare it. Babette's Feast
No!
was boring compared to
Good.
this.
I refuse.
Ugh.
Wow.
Babbitt's Feast was in my language.
Like obviously there's a lot of apples and oranges stuff going on, but they're both boring fruit in this case.
Listen, nobody picked Queen of the Damned, so we can all still remain friends. That would have been
Andreas was
worse.
talking about it, which I thought.
Well,
no,
Andreas
he
talks a
did.
lot of shit, and he
I-
needs to stop.
It's a guilty pleasure, okay? I really like.
Not okay. No, not okay.
It's-
Van Helsing, perfectly acceptable guilty pleasure. Queen of the Damned, not.
It has a great soundtrack, and that saves it for a lot of it.
Yeah.
The music
I
is
did-
so good as well.
I like the monsters, the supernatural monsters and everything. And one of them is kind of the campy, cheesy, a happy, fun version of it, even with the tragedy. But Interview with the Vampire focuses on the tragedy of it. And I like that layer of complexity. So I kind of was choosing of like the dynamic differences between that tone. And everyone had great hair, except for Christian Slater, who was kind of lacking.
Well,
He was a
That's-
human.
I was
So,
going to say
yeah.
that's pretty much his career. Christian
At
Slater
least
kind of
in-
lacking.
Until like 5 minutes after the movie, he was a human. So
The TV show that's out right now, so far, is actually really, really good. I would recommend it.
yeah, it seems like it's the same thing but better because they're doing it episodic and they're trying to stay more true to the book from what I've seen.
Yeah, and
So
there's kind of like it's been
Yeah.
like I think Andreas has been involved from what I understood, and it's been
She's
aged
dead.
up. Yeah, she was in. I think she was involved in some, like when they were making.
We're talking about a vampire thing here. She could still be around.
Yeah,
I have no
true.
idea.
dead or
or
undead.
someone from her estate or something. But I think there was some involvement. But it's been aged up a little. Like it takes like the turning is later and everything, and it's really good.
That's one movie we should have picked was Dracula Dead and Loving It. I think it's
I was thinking
Leslie
about
Nielsen,
it,
right?
actually.
I've seen that movie. Yeah, that's okay.
I mean,
Or A Vampire in Brooklyn, Eddie Murphy.
I
Or
was.
that's a terrible vampire movie is going to have to be a category we pick at some, or
Okay.
one good vampire movie, one terrible one.
okay.
Dibs
Sounds
on Blade.
You should have done Blade for this
Yeah,
one. Just
hold
saying
on.
is like, if
But
you
is-
don't choose Blade, what are we doing
Yeah,
this for?
I know.
But is Blade the good one or the terrible one?
No,
Like,
Blade is the good one.
The Blade.
Blade
I
is
like-
absolutely the good one.
Blade
I
2 's
like
the
the
next
first
one.
Blade, but 2 and
Uh-huh.
3 are bad.
Listen,
you know,
No,
like
We're not talking about 2 and 3. We're talking about
I
how
know,
some
I'm just-
motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
right. And the parts of Blade are bad, but it also has "catch you fuckers at a bad time," which is like one of my favorite action movie lines of all time. Right? You know, because it's like, "Hi, I'm a human, but I came loaded for bear, so like, I'm just going to blow a hole in this wall and start killing shit." So
Well, at the end too, he
Uh,
says it in Russian.
right,
Get you at a bad time, comrade.
right. Yeah, Blade would have been a good pick for this. So
Next time.
sit.
We can do just vampire movies.
Just-
It's fine.
Just so many good.
Well, no. Next up,
There's
is
just
Nick
so many
Cage
good
movies.
horror, movies that we could have picked. So
There are many more Halloweens to come.
Yeah,
Yes,
and some of us will
fair.
even probably be alive for them.
okay,
Depressing.
ominous. So
It's ominous season.
I suddenly regret sharing my address with you. So
If you think I paid attention to that. First of all, you move every year anyway. What's the difference?
Yeah, right. Also, I'm probably the closest to Burt Gummer out of the five of us. So,
Well, you've
Just,
lived in the
you know,
States
as a
where that
warning.
would make sense.
right,
Except for
right.
Andreas, who is constantly ready for war against Putin.
right.
Probably got a bunker we don't know about.
Speaking of Andreas, also great picks. So let him have his moment.
The
So-
best picks, right?
I no, but Ready or Not was a super pleasant surprise. Like I was like, holy shit, I'm liking this movie. So
I should like
Yeah,
it.
Ready or Not was one of those movies because I usually see the bad what I consider going into them will be bad horror movies with my brother, and we saw it when it came out, and I was like, oh, that wasn't terrible.
right.
Is it a theatrical release or was it a straight to Netflix?
No, it was a theatrical release.
Hmm.
It was a couple of years ago. It was like 2019, 2018,
This is,
something
this
like
is
that.
one I did not see, but I was wanting to.
2019.
I just didn't get to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had never heard of it, right? And I was like, the cast looks pretty good and whatever, but you get into the premise and you're like, oh, okay.
You have the woman who I was convinced the entire time was Margot Robbie, even though I knew it wasn't Margot Robbie.
She does look a lot
They-
like her.
They wanted her first, I think. Like from the trivia, it's one of those where it's just like, yeah, but
So we just
Samara
found the
Weaving, so.
person who looks exactly fucking
She's a
like her, but for
she's
a lot cheaper.
Actress, like hands down, like really good.
yeah.
I think he's done another one or two other horror movies of late. I think she's in that vein at the
I
moment.
forget what it was, but the trivia was mentioning like it's like one of the babysitter movies or something where it's she's
maybe.
actually the reverse, like she's the killer and like whatever. But
Right.
She, fun fact, because of her last name, she's Hugo Weaving's niece.
Yes.
niece.
Okay.
So
She
I
is.
was
assuming
wondering
daughter,
what the
but
relationship. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Julia and
she's in
Emma
Guns
Roberts.
Akimbo. And Bill and Ted Face the Music. So yeah,
That was a terrible.
that might be
movie.
the last thing I saw her in.
God, what an awful movie.
What would you rate the Radio Not since we're talking about that? Because to me, this is like when it comes to like a black horror comedy, this is like out of 10. It's so good.
Comedy
It's-
did not land for me at all. I mean, for Ready or
Surprise.
Not, right? That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, ready.
Okay.
Ready or Not.
Okay, just making sure we didn't switch to it because Tucker and Dale was actually quite fun. But like, my biggest complaint of this movie was that it just kind of didn't. It did not land the comedy somehow at all ever.
You mean it didn't
Kid,
land?
just to interject for just a moment so that I can be on the same page. What was funny in this movie? Like the ending was a little bit of an up check mark, right? Punching the kid was an up check mark, but like I wouldn't say anything was like funny so much as like a tone breaker, right?
Well,
Like, this
they
is
kept
like
trying to
just
make a joke
being-
out of all of the maids dying, and I can see how that would have worked in a better movie or just like in a better execution of it. The concept of the
Dad's
movie
line.
I quite enjoyed.
Yeah,
But-
Dad's line, I guess, where it's like, how is she taking us all out? She's like 25 pounds, or whatever. Like that was funny.
Actually, every time the maids went out, I kept picturing like a Scott Pilgrim thing where you would get like points and coins for it. And I was like,
Right.
I feel like that would have been good.
Yeah.
Is it, like,
To me, the maids was just like pointless. It was one of those where it was like, yeah, it wasn't landing as humor. It was just like they're just killing people for no reason now. Yeah, like the maids don't even
sister-
have to be there. Like
The
But-
sister and her husband was like comic relief.
The husband was-
Yeah.
was
snarkiness-
better. But I mean, the concept of the movie I really
Don't
quite like.
be a
I'd like
bitch,
it to be
Fitch.
explored a little
So-
bit more of like they have to do this to actually survive. And like I did enjoy that it was a question of like, do they really or are they just insane? And they're believing that they have to. And then it's like, oh no, they actually do.
Well, I
And so
mean, yeah, it
the-
was a pretty clear cut answer at the end.
yeah, at the
Yeah.
end it was very, very
right,
obvious.
but there was the 10 seconds of like, nothing happened before literally
Yeah.
explosions. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just kind of the I wanted that concept to be explored a little bit more of like they didn't sign up for this except for the people who married into the family, and now it is their lives versus hers. And there's even a line of like maybe we all deserve this, and the sister says my kids don't.
Oh, except that they totally did at the end, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that was yeah, like, and that was great, right? Because like, I mean, to me that resonated on a personal level, but then yeah, that little bastard totally ended up deserving it by the end. So
the whole like her running out on the road and like stop, get out of the road, you bitch.
Right. And her
the-
just total fucking meltdown, because that was real, like, she just bitches him out for like 30 seconds before she pulls herself back together, It was just, to me, it was just a very real kind of movie, right? Like, obviously the whole Hail Satan bits and stuff, spoilers, and just whatever else, like, obviously there are supernatural elements to it, but the fact that it's like, if a person was trapped in the most dangerous game type of situation, like, she was handling about as well as you would expect, minus the fact that like she almost bordered on quasi supernatural competence at times, right? Where it's just like, I think plenty of other people would have just had a total meltdown, and that's what the family was kind of expecting, is that usually when we play this game, the person just like bitches out and gets killed, right? Whereas in her case, she was just suddenly competent, Not a huge fan
I think
of-
this movie is probably too close to Cabin in the Woods for the director, and she thought that Joss Whedon
Right.
wrote it.
probably.
Hammer sometimes
but-
felt like it was aspiring to it. Like at the end, it was like, "What happened to you? In-laws." It's just stop that. You could have been better if you didn't do that.
That one line. That
That
was
was
it.
egregious.
Great line.
But
It
and
did
then
it.
some, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it was a little.
There's there's
Whatever,
so many like good like there's a lot of good horror moments, like slarky moments. There's a lot of good.
I
really
enjoyed
good
the movie way more than I thought it would going into it.
Come on, the scene where she's like, "Can you help me?" She's going to the Roadstar or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, it's reported. Still, I gotta shut it down."
Right.
Like her frustration there, and when he's
Yeah,
driving
why don't you
back
go
to
fuck
listening to
yourself?
loud music, and she kicks him in the face, and they're just watching on the camera.
Right.
So many great.
Yeah,
moments.
turn down the music, you idiot. Yeah, that I watched it last night, so it's pretty fresh for me. But yeah, it was good. I found myself enjoying it, and I don't think it's like rates top, but it's definitely a solid recommend. Overall. So
It had the budget that Dog Soldiers deserved.
Anyway, let's Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Now this was a surprise. I figured, I thought it was just going to be a big bloody gory movie, and it kind of was, but
right.
I didn't really understand the premise. I knew it was kind of about a hillbillies. I didn't get that it was going to be this kind of cute thing with, the guys who are the fake out villains. And that was a really
Right.
nice thing. All that stuff worked really well. And Alan Tudyk
It's-
really saved the movie. I did not
Yeah.
really like Dale as much.
Sure.
I,
But
I like Tucker a lot. I think Tucker worked really well, and that's really the part of the movie I like the best.
and I think you need to go in. Yeah, you need to go into the movie with those expectations, in a sense, right? Like if you don't know anything about the movie, it works out better, because a lot of the like trailer and stuff like that was kind of a fake out as well, from what I remember. Because I remember going into it, not really like not getting what I was expecting out of it. And then, midway through the movie, after like 3 or 4 of the teenagers have accidentally killed themselves, and I think it's Alan Tudyk's character is like, what the hell is happening? And I'm like, that's what I'm saying, because it flips the trope very nicely, where it's like, you could see the entire time, like, it's kind of from their perspective, but you get so much of the other kids as well. But you could see why the kids would be freaked out. And why they're reacting this way. And then you get to the end and it finally makes sense that it's, they're being manipulated as much as anything, but they're just so bad. And like, some of the deaths are completely pointless and just whatever, but they're there to bring those tropes forward, right? And just show like, these guys are like, they're actually kind of trying to help. It's just, like a comedy of errors across the board. And that sort of thing. But yeah, the fact that it was like, oh yeah, this is totally a rednecks are going to kill them and whatever. And then you flip it and they're actually like these total softies that, are just getting beat up by these teenagers is kind of funny to me. So, but
College
And he
kid
goes-
blood.
There's even some
Right.
camera tricks, I think, or like editing tricks, where for the first part of the movie, at least, when it's from the teenager's point of view, the color palette is more horror movie, and then when it goes to Tucker and Dale, it goes more vibrant, and then back to more pale. Like it's like I'm pretty sure it does like something like that. So I think it's a cool.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I think it's
This
a
is
great
the movie I wanted out of Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods is, I'm going to say it,
Wasn't that
Cabin in the Woods
remade?
is better. So, what, Cabin in the Woods?
I thought that wasn't that a remake or a remade? Or...
I don't think so.
Cabin in the Woods is the Joss Whedon horror trope movie.
Yeah, he basically takes all the tropes,
Oh.
puts them in a blender, and tries to put a story to it.
Must be
You
thinking
know?
Right.
something else.
Drive.
Explain
Shut up.
why all these.
This was
Your
this
negative
is what I
opinion
wanted out
on
of-
what Joss
Well,
Whedon does doesn't matter. because
I
So how-
you
gave
how
that
does-
movie a shot, and
How does
it,
I haven't seen that movie or Scream? How does it compare to that or Scream? Because I saw a scary
No.
movie, but
Your Cabin in the Woods. How does that compare?
Well, because we're talking about
Like,
horror movies that deliberately attack tropes of horror movies, right?
yeah, but
So-
but
so Cabin in the Woods-
Scream is different, right? Scream is more a riff on like Halloween, right?
Well, yeah, Scream is very
it's a s-
slasher movie specific, whereas
Exactly.
Cabin in the Woods is
Okay.
more all encompassing of just horror.
Horror movies,
Right.
and explains
So-
why these things happen. As if supernatural horror movies really happened, it's like, why do all these things happen in the real life and like in the world, and why does nobody like know about it? It's because there's this giant organization behind it.
Well, several, because different countries,
Right,
and
because there's
stuff.
the
But yeah,
Japanese
like-
horror one and so on and
like
so
if you're
forth.
familiar the concept of SCP with like the creepypasta esque, it's not a creepypasta, but like SCP is the idea, like there's a wiki of a bunch of people writing, short fictions of a government agency that captures and catalogs and tries to contain or destroy the supernatural, across the board. Sometimes it's objects of power, sometimes it's, creatures and that sort of thing. Cabin in the Woods is probably about the closest you're going to get to a movie embodying that, right? They are keeping the old ones, the great old ones, locked up somewhere, and in order to keep them appeased and docile, they have to put on a horror movie for them, and it's government agencies doing this. So you get a little bit like, it's a very classic, kids stuck in the woods in the cabin type of thing. Think like Evil Dead, for example. It's that kind of trope on one side, but then you've got the B side where you're seeing it from the government side and all the manipulations that they're doing to try and make this work, and that they've got a warehouse full of monsters because the victims always have to choose and stuff like that. I appreciated it, obviously, but the director hates it, so
It's
you
also
can't really
supposed to
take
be
either of us at
'cause
face
there's,
value.
yeah,
But
there's
it's
just
a-
that
yeah,
level
great
of
movie. It
it.
was
Then
my
it's
taste.
also the meta commentary of how it's all about, the old ones are the audience, and how
Yes.
if these certain tropes aren't met, they're gonna bitch about, and you're gonna get bad reviews, and this is why we have to hit these markers and all this.
you
stuff.
they don't beat you in the face with that during the movie. That's like a
No, you can watch this
post-commentary type
movie
of
and
thing,
not
but-
draw that out at all. But
Yeah, I
didn't draw that
it's
out.
there.
Yeah, like so but there are, they are very specific tropes, and the tropes are there because they're part of the ritual, and the ritual is there because they're trying to keep the great old ones down, and it turns out that the great old ones is probably the audience, is what the post meta commentary came out of it. But in the movie, I don't think like that's not like Cluebat, they're hitting you with that, right? They just, in the movie they try to focus on making the themes fit and how their method works, to the point of cheating, right? Because they're like, their friend group didn't have the classically ditzy blonde, so they had to put chemicals in her shampoo so that she would get stupid and do the right things, because she had to fit that trope type of thing. And so like some of that is fun because like the group starts to like break out of it. Some of the ones that survive it are like, wait a minute, something's going on, like this isn't just a thing, why is this happening, and whatever. But I don't know, I enjoyed it, and that's not what we're talking about with Tucker and Dale. So
No,
but
I
Tucker
appreciate
and Dale
that. We
is
talked about that
probably
more.
like Tucker and Dale is like a similar kind of theme, in the sense that it's like all the horror tropes are there for the most part, but obviously like not supernatural stuff, because none of that's really going on too much.
There does seem to be some form of curse, but they don't really go into that, and then it like became semi-racist, which I thought was quite funny.
What do you mean? How
It's like,
did I
you're
miss that
part
one?
hillbilly, because he was talking like, it's you hillbillies, and getting
okay.
like Nazi-ish, and then it's like, you're part hillbilly too, and it's kind of treating that as a race or some form of indelible sin. As I
Right.
thought that was funny.
I see.
I thought it does reverse the trope, right? And there's this guy who's like the jock who's kind of the unhinged guy.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's a good movie. I think Ready or Not is the better of the two movies, personally.
I disagree.
Of course you do.
I mean, Alan Tudyk is wonderful to watch, I guess, in any form.
National treasure.
Yes, and whether he's being an
he needs
American
to
or
stop
not,
voicing animals. So
he went to Juilliard. But
yeah.
This movie was great because of him and because of the guy playing the villain, the bad guy. It's like because he was so willing to turn that up to 11, they kind of carried it for me because when neither one of them was on the screen, it was just kind of like I'm waiting until the next part where they are.
Right.
I don't think that's fair to discount Jack Black, but whatever. I thought he was okay in the movie too. Am I the only one that got those vibes? Like the first few minutes, I'm like, "This isn't Jack Black, is it?" And I'm like, "No, it is not Jack Black." But
You're talking about Dale?
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't get those vibes, but I can see where you would.
yeah.
Are you saying that all bearded fat white guys look alike?
Yes, you do.
Possibly,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair enough. I can see
At
that.
least of a certain height, right? Obviously, if they're taller or whatever, then that shakes
Ah.
up. Because you've got like Fat Thor, then you got like Jack Black,
Oh.
then you got like
I just
Danny
realized.
Danny
DeVito,
DeVito.
right? Those are those are.
I
your
thought there was a
three.
personal gem. I guess you guys don't realize I'm actually like 6'1.5". So
Yeah.
I'm
Right, you're more like
6'6".
Fat Thor.
I'm like,
Right.
oh, I'm like
Yeah.
Fat.
If
Thor,
you're 6
thanks.
foot and above, you're Fat Thor. Like, I mean, I've been joking with the wife, like that should be my Halloween costume because that would be easy to put together. And she's like, "You don't have the hair," and I'm like, "Really? That's where we're going to draw the line?" I don't have a fat suit either. I'm just fat, like
Ben's taller than me. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Everybody here is taller. The director's taller than you if she puts heels on.
right.
She's not. She's. Don't lie.
If I put heels on, if you said
How tall are you with heels?
depending on the heels.
Well, I don't know the heels you
Normal
wear.
heels.
So I'm 5'5". The normal heels I would wear about 3 inches. I'd be 5'8".
Yeah, so I'm still taller.
I can
But-
find taller. I have found heels that
Yeah.
made me 6 foot. It was great for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was enough to make a friend insecure about his height because I got like that taller than him. That was funny.
You mean Andreas?
No, she would be the same. I think I'm straight 6 feet, 180
Straight.
centimeters. What's that in feet? Oh, 5'9".
Pound unit conversion.
There you go.
Which is a big difference between that and 6 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 6 feet. Wait, 5'9".
I have no idea that guy. You are working centimeters. I just thought it was 6 feet.
Because
Yeah, that's what all 5'9"
you
guys
hoped
want.
it was 6.
Yeah. So, yeah, 5'9" guys say that they're 6 foot until somebody who's actually 6 foot shows up, and then
The only time that was ever because I'm 5'10". The only time that was ever is because my brother is actually 6 feet, and we were getting our passports renewed. But he hadn't hit 6 feet yet at the time, but he was taller than me. So I said I was 6 feet to piss him off. So for 10 years, my passport says 6 feet and his said 5'11".
that's freaking awesome.
So
Yeah.
I would always tell
It's-
him internationally, I'm taller than you.
Right. I've had that joke in the family for like since I was a teenager that it's like so my dad always said that he was 6'4", but he was probably more like 6'2". So when I finally got taller than him, people would be like, "Oh, well, how tall are you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm either 6'2" or 6'4", depending on who's measuring. So I usually go with 6'4" as well, but yeah, like I've been measured, like if you go to the doctor for a checkup or whatever, and they're like, "You're 6'2", and I'm like, "The hell," but whatever, so
It actually reminds me of a funny story. My dad
And
asked
let's
me
end it here.
some years ago how tall I was. I was like, I've just been to the doctor. Like, I'm 180 centimeters, so 5'9". And he's like, "No, you're not, because I'm 180 and you're tall." And I was like, this much taller than him or something. And there's no way. And he got really like insistent about it and went and got a
Measuring tape.
like this like you have in your for school, like this size
a
measuring
ruler.
thing, a ruler, and he marked all the way up a doorpost to prove that he was 180 and I was taller than that. And then we went and did it, and I was like 180 exactly, and he had shrunk like a centimeter because he's gotten older. And I was like, oh man, are you shrinking there, old man?
And then he disowned you.
He was not happy.
Yeah, still taller than you when you're lying on your back, though. So that's how it go down in my
What?
family. So you've never heard that
Oh,
one? So
no.
like,
Wow, okay.
You knock him out.
yeah, right. Yeah,
pretty-
my grandfather was actually kind of the runt of his family, which is why it's ironic that like my dad broke 6 feet and everything, and so he was somewhere, you know, in the like 5.5 feet tall range. But he also like grew up on a farm, and you know, like to talk about how he'd carry 500 pounds in each arm or whatever. But pretty much up until, you know, he died, like I would not have fucked with him in a fight if I could avoid it, and he couldn't even walk, you know. But he was the classic of that kind of thing, like, you know, Secondhand Lions energy, if you're familiar with that movie, where it's just like, yeah, you're too old to be fighting, you know, but that wouldn't have stopped him. So yeah,
Okay, we did it.
We did.
yeah, I really solid movies across the board except for Descent and
Yeah.
Van Helsing.
But it was
Van
not-
Helsing is great. It's
And
Love
Interview
it.
with a Vampire.
And Adam's Family.
And yeah, I think Interview was my third, you know, for sure, like third from the bottom. But you know, Dog Soldiers maybe. Like I like Dog Soldiers, but that doesn't make it a good movie. So, but
It's better than Interview with a Vampire.
okay, so fourth.
so I guess we'll end this in here. We'll figure out the next prompt or whatever it is we're doing.
Nick
That's
Cage
the point.
movies. We've been putting it off.
Violent
putting
Night.
it off.
The next movie is the next episode's after Violent Night comes out, so we're gonna dissect that movie. It's gonna be a masterpiece.
Oh,
cannot
okay,
get
we can
bigger
move
than-
straight on to like, you know,
Are we really gonna
violent
watch
horror
Violent
Christmas
Night?
movies.
Because there
It's
are no
gonna be
horror
November
Thanksgiving
by then.
movies.
We're
There
gonna
is
be almost
one
2 weeks
horror
into
Thanksgiving
November,
movie,
so.
I think.
What is that?
I don't remember.
Does Pumpkinhead count? Is that a horror Thanksgiving? I just found out about that today. I was like, holy shit, that's probably the other Dresden reference that I was like, where's not the sledgehammer guy, but like they had a Pumpkinhead
You
in
know,
Monster.
come to
Yeah.
think of it, I don't
That's
think there
fetch.
actually is one. But I remember there was a preview during the Grindhouse movies. You know, those there was a preview for, and obviously Machete got
Hammer.
made into a movie, but
Right.
there was a Thanksgiving horror slasher movie that was a preview in there, and that one never got made.
I thought the Hammerhand was kind of Candyman-ish. That's what I got from
I
it
mean,
anyway.
Probably.
Oh yeah. 2019 Pilgrim on Hulu. Let's do
There you
this. Yeah.
that sounds terrible.
Black Friday. Come on. Thanksgiving writes
God.
itself.
Thanks killing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Adam's Family Values had that Thanksgiving thing in it, so that could have counted.
CNET has a whole article, Gore and Gravy, terrifying Thanksgiving horror films to stream.
Sweet. I'm sure they're all very, very good.
The fact that we could just, you know, think of 5 of them off the top of our head, of course, is a good
Yeah,
sign.
by reading a list.
Yeah.
All right, I'm pulling the plug.
Yep.
Oh, you did.